My wife said she wanted to feel desired, so she let my friend cross every line until I caught them. But she never expected the consequences I unleashed. My wife and I have been married for 15 plus years with kids. About 2 years ago, we started hanging out with this other couple we met through our school. We've gotten really close. I consider the guy my friend, and my wife also hangs out with his wife. When the four of us hang out with our families, there's usually a good amount of alcohol involved. The event in question happened right before Mother's Day, and I still haven't digested it. We were hanging out with the other couple as usual, when my wife went to the kitchen with the guy to refill their drinks. I had a mostly full glass and was looking pretty comfy on the couch, still talking to the other wife, when I decided to go join them in the kitchen for whatever reason. When I got there, I saw my wife with her back against a wall laughing, with my friend leaning over her, his mouth maybe kissing her neck or really close to it. They were both pretty drunk. I immediately screamed, "WTF is going on?" They jumped apart looking shocked to see me, and my wife kept saying she could explain, etc. It was like out of a shitty Lifetime movie. We were all talking over each other, and then I started heading to the car, grabbing my kids on the way. I was about to leave her, but she climbed in the passenger seat anyway. I wasn't going to kick her out of the car with our kids in the back, so we drove home in silence. When we got home, my wife started crying. She told me that this is what happened. Weeks ago, he started doing random small things around her while we all hung out if my, and his wife's, back was turned. He would grab her hand or touch her hair. The most they spoke about it was that she said he should really stop doing these things, but then kept letting him or finding ways to be alone momentarily with him. She claims they never communicated by text/phone call, never met up, and never even kissed. In retrospect, I do think he was subtly flirting with her, but I thought at the time that it was the usual gentle teasing we would all do as friends. I asked her if they were going to kiss that night if I hadn't caught them, and she says she's not sure, but she may have let him. She says she's not even physically attracted to him, but enjoyed the validation she got from him putting these moves on her. She has had a long history of requiring a lot of reassurance that she's attractive and that I am still into her. She immediately let me have her phone and search through it, and I didn't find any texts between them. I asked her if this would have led to sex, and she adamantly said no. The worst thing then was that I asked her if she fantasized about him when she was with me or getting herself off. She said no to thinking of him while with me but admitted yes to thinking of him when alone. Needless to say, I'm cutting off all contact with my friend. I told my wife I'm thinking about divorce and she's begging me to reconsider. She's telling me we will go to counseling, I can track her location, all the things. This really sucks. I don't know how I can get past this betrayal. I don't know how I can trust her again. But I also don't know how I can leave what I thought was an amazing marriage and give our kids a broken home without attempting to try to work through this. I can't talk to any of my friends or family about this because it makes me sick, and I feel embarrassed that I let this happen. It's been hard pretending to be happy on Mother's Day for the sake of our kids. I can't sleep and have barely eaten. I can't concentrate at work. At home, my wife just cries all the time. What the fuck do I do? TLDR, I caught my wife about to kiss a friend while we were hanging out. She says she accepted his advances because she liked the validation, but would have stopped it before it led to sex. She appears remorseful and is begging me to not leave her, and I don't know what to do. ETA, I just want to clarify one point since I've had many comments addressing this. We do not drink and drive. One of us is usually the DD and has like one glass of wine with food, while the other three get a little sloshed. Just needed to say this so people didn't keep assuming we're putting kids in danger. I was not drinking the night this happened, and I'm sorry for not clarifying this before. Relevant comments. Commenter, you didn't catch them and they would have done more and more each time until finally meeting up alone. I don't know what you do here to be honest. Obviously the friend has to go and blocked everywhere. What did the guy's wife do about all of this? OP, I honestly wasn't watching the other wife that carefully while this was going down because I was freaking out. She also seemed shocked but didn't say much, just kept repeating, "What happened?" I watched my wife send her one text since then saying, "I'm sorry for not stopping this and my part in everything," but she didn't respond. I have not tried to reach out to her myself. Did the other wife find out? OP, yeah, I replied earlier, but she also came in shocked when she heard me yelling. But she hasn't responded to my wife's apology texts and so I don't know how much she knows. I don't know if I'm ready to reach out to her either. She may not want to hear from me or might have heard a different version of events from her husband. Commenter, she's lying to you. No one has sexual fantasies about someone they're not at least semi-interested in. You can be flattered by interest and make it clear it's not welcome. She did nothing of the sort. She encouraged it. And got off on the sneaking around, which means she got off on lying to you. OP, she explained that she isn't physically attracted to him and wouldn't imagine herself actually having sex with him as he is in real life. He was more of this vague presence in her fantasy that was just obsessed with her and made her feel desired. You're right, she didn't stop him as she should. She said she got off on the high of feeling wanted. Update, 15 days later. Sorry, it's taken me a while to get back to this. It's been really busy, as you can imagine. I appreciate all the support and advice for this difficult situation. Shortly after the original post, I did reach out to the other wife, asking if we could meet in person or at least talk on the phone to see if the stories matched. She pretty much responded with a version of, "We are planning on moving forward as a family and talking about it with you will not be conducive to that process for us." She wished me peace or some BS, and then both of them blocked both of us. I know there's other ways to contact them, but I'm not gonna be that guy. We decided to start marriage counseling and have an appointment set up this week. I also finally convinced my wife to get therapy for her issues as well, but her appointment isn't until later in June. She is still being transparent and asking whatever question I have about anything. She is still maintaining that all she would ever do is flirt and a few touches here and there while we were all hanging out, and would never have met up with him outside. She says she enjoyed the thrill of being found desirable by someone that was taboo. It got to her head. I looked through her phone many times again, more thoroughly, and I didn't find any deleted texts, apps, etc. I even looked up websites on how to catch cheating on phones and followed their advice on how to search. I hate to disappoint most of you who commented, but I am trying to give her this benefit and move forward with our marriage for now, as she has been an amazing wife otherwise. I do know that I may never have 100% of the truth. I'm not an idiot. I don't trust her fully, but maybe one day I can get there. Here's the tricky part. Our kids are in the same elementary school as theirs, and my wife is involved in the PTA, so there's a guarantee we will run into this family. It's actually pretty surreal to go from being such good friends to no contact. My wife has begged me to not divulge any of this to anyone at the school or mutual friends, as she doesn't want our kids to lose friends or our family to be stigmatized. I do see her point about that. But I did follow your advice and spoke to a couple of my best friends from before about what transpired. They were shocked she would do this, but supportive when I told them I'd try to forgive her. I'm thinking of getting a therapist though. I still don't want to tell anyone in my family because they can keep grudges and would use this against her forever. Finally, I'm sorry I made the original post seem like we were all alcoholics or something, but that's really not the case. We would get together and drink 2 to 3 times a month, and it was our main social drinking outlet. We would have maybe 3 to 4 drinks each except for the one who was the DD. We don't drink when it's just the two of us, except for date nights. We don't do weed or other drugs. I just mentioned the alcohol to give context that they were both under the influence when this happened, not to give an excuse or serve as the focus in the story. Thank you again for all the comments. It was helpful to have a place to go to initially for this shit before I was ready to talk to people. It still feels like my life has turned upside down, and I still am hoping it's all a bad dream, but I think I've accepted it better now. Relevant comments. OP, I don't want to keep repeating myself in multiple comments, so I'll try to respond to the main concerns brought up here. My wife is facing consequences. She is a wreck, barely eating or sleeping. At least on the outside, she seems to be suffering. I heard her tell her sister on speakerphone what she did, and she couldn't keep it together during the conversation. They were both crying. Her parents may know too, as she didn't tell her sister to keep it a secret. It was also her idea to get therapy for herself, but we couldn't find an appointment until weeks later. The school year is over, and she will also take a step back from as many activities with the PTA next year, only attending things both of us can make. I just mentioned that to share that we as a family will run into theirs at some point. I am in agreement with her that I don't want her to be publicly shamed in our school and neighborhood. If anyone else has kids, they may partly understand why. They often go over to play with neighbor kids at will. It's a typical suburb with gossipy moms. I know for sure this shit would bleed over and affect their friendships. I am not willing to allow our kids to pay any price for her actions. I'm not bearing any burden of protecting her image, because I also have no desire to shout this from the rooftops. It's enough to me that some of my friends and her family know. She knows I haven't ruled out divorce. She is giving me immediate access to her phone on demand, but I'm not really using that privilege now. I'm planning on waiting weeks and months in case you all are correct, and she is waiting for time to pass to get more comfortable, and then I will really go nuts with stalking her. Maybe even hire a PI. This part is probably not the healthiest thing to do to reconcile, but I'm hoping it can be like that only temporarily until I feel better. I may never feel 100% better, but I do know any further indiscretion will be a complete deal breaker. I'm not sure the other wife's silence necessarily means more happened. From what I know of her, she's in general someone who wants to bury issues instead of facing them, and has before scolded my wife of picking fights with me over what she thinks are trivial things. One thing I will mention that I haven't yet The image of what my wife looked like when I caught them was burned into my brain. When I found her leaning against the wall and him about to kiss her neck, she didn't look aroused. She was giggling, her face similar to how it looks when she's being tickled or something. Her arms were straight down her sides and not on him. At least this picture doesn't paint her as the aggressor. This shit is hard. It's easy to just say divorce when you're not the one married forever with small kids. It's easy to be convinced more happened, but at this point, I have no proof of anything beyond what my wife's telling me. Commenter, how are you going to handle interactions between the children? I'm guessing they will tell their kids to stop being friends and even talking to your kids. That is the where your wife really screwed over your family going forward. The kids will be hurt. Teachers and parents are going to pick up on the relationship tension and make assumptions about an affair happening. Once people comment to your former friends, what are they going to say? What are you going to say? OP, we told them that we had a disagreement with them and won't be going over there anymore, but said they can still be friends and play together at school. That's it so far, and we will play the rest by ear. Yeah, I understand people may hear of it and make assumptions, but friends fall out over many other things. Moving on to our next story, and it says, Ada for demanding that my husband and I go on video consenting to an opening relationship before allowing one. I, 35F, have been with my husband, 35M, since we were 15 in high school and married him at 25 after our first child was born. We are each other's only partner for everything, and I thought we were good until my husband told me that we weren't. It all started when our first child 10F was born and the dynamics of our relationship went through a shift. I admit that it was a bit of a challenge, but I thought we were doing okay until I got pregnant a second time and we had our twin 6M and 6M. It was rough, and between child rearing, both working, taking care of the home, and struggling to save for a bigger place, I honestly started to wonder if we'd make it. We went to counseling, and once all kids were in school I felt like my husband and I were going to be okay. We moved into our house, we got a handle on our student loans, got help with child care, received respective employment advances, and were able to make monthly date nights for each other where we could just focus on us. It wasn't perfect, but I truly believed that we were good. Then one day my husband approached me about wanting to bring more excitement into the relationship. At first I thought he just wanted to spice things up, which I was down for, and we did, but then he started to drop little hints about wanting more and asking me if I ever had any regrets about when we met. It took a while for me to be honestly with both him and myself, but I finally admitted that there were certain I wish we could have done differently, and he seized that moment to bring up opening up the marriage. I was shocked, confused, hurt, and the thought of cheating entered my mind. He assured me that it wasn't and sent me articles and videos about ethical non-monogamy, but I wasn't initially open to it. Unfortunately, my husband didn't stop and kept pestering me about it to the point where it would ruin our date nights, and after a year I relented just to get it over with, but insisted on some ground rules. One of them being that I wanted us both to sit down together and record ourselves consenting to allowing the other to have a partner. When my husband asked why, I showed him a post about a woman who was in an open relationship with her husband, and one day while she was out with her boyfriend, a relative of the husband saw, took pictures, and then confronted the wife with the entire family. They accused her of cheating and her husband just let her take the fall. I don't ever want to be in that position, but my husband dismissed it, saying that what happened to her won't happen to us and that no one else needs to be in our relationship, which I found laughably ironic. I told him no video confirmation of consent, then no open relationship. My husband thinks I'm being paranoid, unreasonable, selfish, unfair, and unwilling to compromise. Ida? Relevant comments. Commenter, my husband thinks I'm unwilling to compromise. LOL. That's rich. You literally gave him a compromise. You accepted his proposal with one condition to address your concerns. I guess for him, a compromise is where he gets to do exactly what he wants, without restrictions, regardless of your needs. Must be nice to live in his head. OP, his idea of a compromise to my video request is just having something in writing instead of video. Commenter, you know he wants to open the relationship because he has a very specific person he's trying to fuck, right? A coworker probably. OP, no sleeping with someone from work was one of the ground rules and he didn't give any pushback on that, so at the very least I don't think he wants to sleep with anyone at work. OP, when asked why not sign a contract. It's harder to challenge a video than it is a signed document. OP on the ground rules. I didn't go into too much details about it, but the other ground rules are that we would have to use protection when it came to other partners, get tested frequently, and if there was a pregnancy outside of the marriage, more likely on his end than mine since I'm on long-term birth control, then the marriage would be over as I won't be a step-parent. Update, hello everyone. Some things have changed, and because I still get the occasional PM about this, I decided to give an update to my situation, and it will probably be many months before I give any new information if I update again at all. To get straight to the point, I decided to give my husband what he wanted and will be filing for divorce. For more details, please continue reading. After having yet another argument about opening up the marriage, my husband threw a fit and left the house and didn't return until the following day. It was late and I know he had been drinking a few more beers than he usually does, so I was worried and kept trying to call and text him. He didn't respond, but while I was walking around the house with worried, I noticed a pinging sound around the time after I sent my husband messages. I eventually found the iPad that he used to use and was planning on giving to his sister's stepkid and realized it was still linked to his phone. Against my looming sense of guilt, I checked his iPad and it turns out he's been messaging another woman from work for months. It wasn't just work-related or platonic stuff either. A lot of these messages were really spicy and had the occasional NSFW pictures. They didn't show each other's faces, but I know my husband's body, and the chick he was communicating with forgot about the mirror behind her, which showed a tattoo that she had on her back of her shoulder, so even though she cut off her face, I knew who she was. According to the messages, they haven't gone all the way, but they have done other stuff and made jokes/comments about me. To make it worse, he's also been messaging some of his friends and cousins about me, saying how disgusting he thinks my body has become since having our kids. How he hates that my breasts have tiny stretch marks and aren't as high up as they used to be, and resents me for putting my desires of doing motherhood a certain way rather than considering the needs of my partner, aka my choice to breastfeed, instead using formula like he kept suggesting. My heart broke and I cried as I read the messages. I guess I wasn't as quiet as I thought I was because my son woke up and asked me if I was okay. I ended up taking him to bed with me and we fell asleep snuggling. I woke up to my daughter giving me breakfast, toast with jam and a peeled tangerine with some cereal, and told me that she heard her father and I arguing and wanted to cheer me up because she knew I was sad. This made me angry inside, not at the kids but at my husband. How dare this man subject these beautiful kids to this type of chaos, all because he wanted to get laid. In that next moment, something in me broke emotionally, and I no longer held any care or love for my husband. Part of me was hoping something terrible did happen to him while he was out, as it would be a much cleaner break for me and my kids, and I would have the benefit of his life insurance policy. Maybe I should see a therapist about that? After I finished having breakfast with the kids, I let them go play while I looked up divorce attorneys and Google state laws on marriage and divorce. My husband came back in the early afternoon, still wouldn't say where he was, but I didn't care. As he was showering, I told him that he had my permission to open the marriage, no video or written statement required. He was ecstatic, and suddenly the fun and attentive man my husband was came back, and it made me sick. He agreed never to bring any of his conquests to the home where our children might see and use protection, but his word means nothing to me now. Over the next couple of days I used my lunch breaks to have phone meetings with lawyers, and I believe I found the one for me. Since I gave my husband the green light, he's not being covert about his adventures and even showed me his Tinder profile. I smile but say nothing, and I'm just collecting whatever evidence I can pass on to my lawyer. My plan is to serve him and pretend to be the aggrieved wife who found out about his adultery and lie about giving him permission to family and friends. No one outside of my lawyer knows that I'm gearing up for divorce in real life, and there is no changing my mind. Thank you for reading. Moving on to our next story, and it says, I think my GF might be cheating on me through her Dungeons and Dragons game. I, 27M, have been going out with my GF, 25F, for almost 4 years, and we've been living together for a few months. She's funny and wonderful and kind and honestly pretty much everything I ever wanted in a girl. She's also a bit of a D&D type nerd, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's good that she has her own friends and hobbies. She tried getting me into it, but I don't really get it. She tried teaching me about D&D, but there were just too many weird rules and dice, and I just didn't see the fun in it. We tried playing Baldur's Gate 3 together thinking it would be easier to get into for me, and for me to experience her world in a way, but I got really bored really fast, and at that point it was just better to let her do her own thing. We've got plenty of other stuff we do together, and as I said, it's not a big deal for her to have hobbies that don't include me. And she does love her hobby. She gets very excited about her weekly games and sometimes tells me about the epic adventures they go on, which admittedly sounds pretty fun secondhand but is not really for me. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment, so we have a bedroom and a home office we share, where our laptops are. Her D&D games are online, and usually happen in the evening, so I just hang out in the living room or go out when she plays to not intrude. But a few weeks ago I noticed that she locks the door when she plays. I thought it was a little weird because why would you lock the door to play D&D? And it didn't sit right with me. So I did what I now think might have been very sad and pathetic, but I genuinely didn't know what else to do. The last few weeks when she had her game, I sat out in the hall by the door and listened. She uses headphones, so I could only really hear her side of the game, and at first it was just some stuff about rolling dice, joking around with her friends, and spells doing whatever, but I kept at it. I sat there for 4 hours last week and over 2 hours this week, but eventually I heard it. She was talking about / with another person and it was really romantic. It was tender, and very emotional. She legit said something like, "You know I love you, so I want to help you save your family," or something like that, in a clearly romantic way. It went on like that, like a clearly emotional discussion with a romantic partner that lasted a solid 15 minutes. Then it went back to other stuff, but by that point it didn't matter. I was really upset, and went back to the living room, and when she came out after session I confronted her. I told her I heard her talking and telling some guy how much she loved him, and how he was the only one who ever got through to her or something, so she would do anything for him. She said I was taking it out of context, and that it was just pretend and playing a character, but I told her it didn't matter. This wasn't some video game where her character was speaking written lines to another character with written lines who wasn't real. She herself was saying sweet, loving, romantic things to another real person. And it hurt to hear. It felt like cheating. She said it wasn't cheating, and her character wasn't her. She just did it for the drama, and thought being romantically invested made her character better. She also said that me sitting outside to listen in on her game was a violation of her privacy and showed that I didn't trust her, which was why she felt like she needed to lock the door in the first place. I apologized for that, but at the same time I said that me being wrong to eavesdrop doesn't justify what she did, to which she said that she didn't do anything wrong. It was just what the game was. And it was just a game, but that made me feel even worse. Maybe I'm being whiny or misreading it, but she is the first person I was ever really vulnerable with like that, and the way she spoke to me when she told me how much she loved me, it was just so similar to the way she spoke as her character that it made me uncomfortable. It made me feel like something that was only mine and only for me was just given to someone else for a game. It felt like it cheapened it. Was she faking it with me? Was she genuinely feeling it for that other person? I don't know what exactly it is that's bothering me, because technically she's not wrong. But I don't care if she's technically not cheating, I just feel like there are certain sides of my GF that should be reserved only for me, shouldn't there? I couldn't really verbalize it to her, and after a bunch of arguing back and forth with just went to bed. For the past few days we've been in this weird state of limbo where we're going on like nothing happened, but also there's clearly tension. Today I couldn't take it anymore and I said that we need to talk about it. I said that I understand her hobbies are important to her, but I am her BF and there should be certain things that are just for me. I can't go on knowing that she's talking like that to some other guy. So I told her that I support her going on with the games, but I ask that she no longer lock the door, and no longer do whatever romantic stuff she does in-game. She said I didn't mind when she talked to me at length about her romance with that Asterian guy in Baldur's Gate. I told her, again, that that is not the same. I don't mind her playing at romance with a bunch of pixels, and being moved by fiction, but that her D&D game isn't just fiction. It's her, telling those things to an actual person, and that bothers me, so I want her to stop. She said I was being possessive and controlling, and that I can't tell her not to have hobbies or how to behave. I told her that's true, but if she doesn't understand how I feel about this we might not have a future together. She got angrier and said I'm clearly not in a state to be having this discussion and we'll talk again when I've calmed down, and went to school. She's getting her MA, but in the time since I've been the opposite of calming down, I just get more upset the more I think about it. Clearly me being upset should at least make her consider stopping even if she isn't actually cheating outright? Shouldn't my feelings matter on this issue? But also, maybe I'm not being reasonable? Maybe I am overreacting? Help. Relevant comments. Commenter, I'm sorry to say this but yes, absolutely. I don't play D&D anymore and don't like it, but people do all sorts of things to maintain an atmosphere where they feel safe. Role-playing is incredibly vulnerable and it's very easy to feel stupid if someone overhears. You should have just asked why she locked it if you were curious. Your post implies that, rather than her having an actual emotional affair, which is possible but unlikely, the point of contention is that the act of saying it to someone else hurt your feelings. I can see why it would, honestly. But you hit her with a double whammy, you invaded her privacy and then made an accusation. She's not going to be in a state to be considerate of your feelings after that. Do you want a relationship to still be there after you win the argument? I don't want to be harsh, but this seems like a bad situation. You're probably a decent person and you're hurt right now, but there are times when you have to recognize you're the transgressor. TLDR yes. If you had asked about the lock or asked more about what the games are like before eavesdropping you would likely not be surprised and hurt. OP, I accept that I probably fucked up here, maybe a lot. And I will apologize for it, but I can't just be okay with her simulating a romantic relationship with another person, I can't. And if I just apologize and let it go I'm just going to be spending the rest of our time together feeling like I have to share her emotional vulnerability, if that makes sense. I don't want to be a prude, but I can't get comfortable with my GF telling other people she loves them romantically, even in the context of a game. It hurts too much. Update, 2 days later. So having read the comments y'all gave, I thought I maybe was actually overreacting and I really did fuck up. Especially helpful I thought was a comment someone made about asking her about maybe keeping the door unlocked and being allowed to listen in on session to get context and learn to accept her hobby and let Het still enjoy it without me spiraling. So when she came home from school I made apology dinner, homemade pizza from scratch, her fave, and we sat down to talk. She started by demanding an apology because whatever else I had to say, eavesdropping and not trusting her were huge fuck-ups on my part. I agreed and apologized immediately because that was shitty behavior on my part, no question. That helped her be more open to hearing me out. So I said, more calmly and tactfully, that it bothers me that she is simulating romantic love with a person I don't know in context I don't understand. I said that I can and do apologize for my actions, but I can't change how I feel, and that also needs to be discussed. So she asked what I had in mind. I told her that I think trust should go both ways, so me trusting that the game is just a game and it doesn't mean anything is well and good, but in return I'd like for her to keep the door unlocked and let me sit in on a few sessions. I promised not to be disruptive, not to overreact or interrupt the game and to bring up any issues I had privately with her after the game was over. She seemed relieved because she was worried I'd demand she drop the game or break up with her, and said she personally didn't mind but she needed to bring it up with her group, which I thought was very reasonable. The rest of the evening, though, she was constantly on her phone, constantly getting Discord notifications and seemed more and more upset. This lasted for literally hours, well into the night, past when I was asleep. I asked if anything was wrong and she said maybe, but not to wait up, and she promised to tell me everything in the morning. I didn't get much sleep, but I also didn't want to pry too much having just promised not to. So come morning, when I asked what happened, since she clearly didn't get much sleep and was clearly nervous, she said she brought it up with the group and reactions were mixed. I'm gonna give these people fake names to keep track. So when she brought it up, everyone seemed okay with me listening in except Joe. Joe is the guy whose character she had the romance with. Joe said in their group chat that he wouldn't feel safe acting, they call it role-playing I guess, when there was a stranger in chat, and wouldn't participate in any game I was present for. This obviously made my GF respond that seeing the relationship between their characters was the whole point of me listening in, to which he said I'm being unreasonable and violating his boundaries by making unreasonable demands. This was already pretty bad in my eyes, but then she told me about the private messages. After the group exchange she got 3 messages. One was from Joe. Joe wrote a long, really long message about how much he cared about her, and much it hurt him to see her dim her light, to appease a controlling abusive boyfriend who stifled her creativity, and how she should be with someone who appreciated her, let her be herself and shared her interest, and that he was available if she wanted to talk. He finished with a paragraph about how women like her always go for selfish assholes and don't appreciate the wonderful guys all around them. How he felt such a connection with her through their characters and how could she ignore it? I genuinely couldn't believe I was seeing one of these in the wild. I don't usually get secondhand embarrassment, but that shit was so cringe I almost died. Like I genuinely laughed. I couldn't really be angry, that shit was just so sad. She also got messages from Jenny, another player, who said Joe seemed way too invested in the romance for her taste, and she thought those segments were taking up a lot of game time which she though was better used elsewhere. She never said anything because she thought my GF was really into it, but now that it became an issue she thought she should. She also mentioned she found Joe creepy, which I personally appreciate. I don't know any of these people IRL because it's an online group, but I certainly think Jenny might be my new best friend. Finally there was a message from Mitch, the guy running the game, who said Joe reached out to him demanding I not be allowed to, and this is a quote, violate the intimacy of the group. And he should talk to my GF too to get her to drop me listening in, and possibly drop me altogether. I don't even know how or why Mitch would even attempt to do that. All this resulted in them canceling the next game as they work it out. My GF didn't respond to Joe yet, but at least she seems relieved that I'm taking this well. I told her of course I am, I'm not going to be upset over some guy being into her. She's wonderful, of course guys are going to be into her wherever she goes. The issue I was worried about was that she was into him back, and these messages convinced me that that's clearly not the case, which seems to have made her feel a lot better. We talked a bit more and she now seems to agree that locking the door, in context, might have seemed suspicious and that going forward our ground rule should be that character dynamics that make her feel like she should lock the door might be the exact dynamics she should make me aware of, while I promised to trust her to tell me these things and not to eavesdrop anymore, and approach her openly about listening in on sessions. Also the romance with Joe's character isn't going to continue, but seeing how she feels about Joe now, I think I do trust her to do character romance going forward, just to not hide it from me and be selective with who she does it with. I don't know how the Joe situation is going to be handled within the group, but I guess that's up to them, since playing with him is obviously going to be very awkward for her. Guess since she doesn't intend to keep up the romance, it doesn't really matter. Small edit: since the situation basically resolved itself now, Joe didn't like being left on read. So he wrote my GF a very rude message about how, I kid you not, she was going to die alone with cats because her asshole boyfriend is going to leave her when she loses her looks. He literally never saw her in person, to be clear, uncovering my secret plan, I guess. So she just blocked him and sent a screenshot to Mitch. Joe isn't going to be part of the group anymore. GF apologized for not recognizing how absolutely unhinged the guy was. We reasserted that any in-game interaction she isn't comfortable having in front of me is probably one she shouldn't be having. Relevant comments. Commenter: I'm glad everything seems well, but I feel like you still need to have a discussion about why she was locking the door in the first place. Because to me, that says on some level she knew it was wrong and that it would hurt you. And if I was you, I'd be unable to not cope with that until I got the full truth. OP: from what she said, since it basically wasn't so much about knowing this was wrong, since she supposedly was locking her door at her parents' home too, which is where she lived before, and before the romance even took place, and more about feeling safe to get into the headspace to perform, since I explained that this was part of what made it feel so off to me. And given how Joe clearly had a very different view of the situation than her, she agreed that going forward the door should remain unlocked and she will work on getting more comfortable performing even in my presence, be it with me in voice chat or present in the room, since Joe's reaction clearly didn't happen in a void, unhinged as it was. Commenter: you were very valid with your feelings of being uncomfortable with your partner emulating love with another, even if it was just role-playing. I myself play D&D and would be super uncomfortable if my partner was sitting there flirting at the table with someone else in character, so it's understandable that you would be too. I'm not sure why people thought your boundaries were wrong on your initial post. Glad you guys could figure it out nonetheless. OP: I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I love her, and if this is important to her, I feel I owe her at least the benefit of giving her grace.